What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Dojo. I am Carmen. We have Nothmar and Ray here with us. A whole bunch of stuff to talk about. I don't know how the climate of this conversation is going to go, but I am very optimistic. So we're just going to, I guess, jump right in to review the last week. We've been starting off that way. We're going to continue on that trend, even though I was a little underwhelmed. The more I think about it, maybe that's a good thing. And we'll talk about why I might think that's a good thing in a minute. Ray, what did you think of the last week?
I thought that kind of what we expected, right? No major comic hooks. I'm sure we'll talk about it soon. I'm real pumped for Strange Tales 111. I'm a big fan of Baron Mordo. I think what's going to be interesting is going to tell us how the movies play into VeVe sales, right? Again, we're going to start hitting the first couple movies where the first appearances of the movie characters, we see them, they play out, and now we have the drops on VeVe. Curious to see how that plays out, but I didn't pick up any of the comics this last week. I didn't go for the paintings. I'm not a huge art guy. I always just trust you all whether or not to get it or not, but I wasn't there. It looks like they're doing well, which is probably a decent sign. And then, I thought that the Eye of Agamotto drop, I thought, real cool in practice, but the price point was just way too much. I had a feeling that based on the number that they had out there, there's no chance that thing the common goes anywhere close to drop price. So that's kind of my thoughts. It wasn't a huge week for me buy-wise. I don't think I've bought anything this week. Trying to get my hands on some gems for the next month, but no buys this week. Just watching.
Yeah. Nothmar, what about you?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I used my remaining cash that I got from some sales like a few weeks ago, and I bought just a few Silver Surfer Blacks and a few first Psylocke New Mutants Annual, but I got them cheap, like $3 each, so that was pretty good. So I like that. I do want the Captain America one because that's a PC book, but the prices I think is too high. That's probably gonna go down eventually, so I'm not gonna buy that right now. The For the paint, the art ones are nice too, and the Eye of Agamotto, but I think they're still overpriced. I think it can still go down, so I'm gonna hold off, buying them. But I probably will get an Eye of Agamotto, at least the rare one. Once I see the price is reasonable and I make some more NFT sales before I buy them, because I refuse to buy any new gems right now. So
Yeah, that's understandable. I'm looking at the drops, and it's weird. Like, I didn't read Silver Surfer Black at all. I know nothing about Silver Surfer Black, but then you get that null cover for the secret rare, which I thought was super interesting.
Yep.
I feel like these decisions are telling when it comes to what we see on VeVe in particular. Right now, if you want to buy that Silver Surfer Black null, at last I checked, it was not too expensive. But I think I'm probably going to hold off now, because I just don't know what the market really holds, right? We've been sort of talking about that. The other comic drops I really wasn't super excited about, except I'm a huge Psylocke fan. And I was really, and this is going to piss people off that we're trying to flip. And frankly, my people who are trying to flip, I just don't care about. Like, if you're running 15 bots on this New Mutants Annual 2 and you get 15 commons, sucks to suck, man. Because I got 3 for $2.50 a piece, which I will go all day long. I'll drop $10 on 4 copies of one of my favorite characters of all time, and then I'll just let that ride. Like, in my brain as a fan, that's a no-brainer. So I was really happy with that. But so the Captain America Annual was kind of hit or miss for me. Like, I wasn't really, like I said, I don't know if this is a good thing, because we're getting some underwhelming comics, I guess, mainly because I think it's giving us a sense of recovery, right? I almost don't want, like, every week there to be this huge hammer. I kind of like the idea of like, oh, I'm just going to spend $10 on 4 comics this week, and then it's comfortable.
Yeah, no, it's
it's like a pool list almost, right? It's like $10 a week. You get your comics, you go home, you read them,
it's
and
great.
then they
Actually,
go get shelved away.
Yeah,
right?
it's great. We get like nice, cool comics that are PC stuff. I mean, in the background, I do know that the bots are getting killed if they are still in the game and they get like 10 or 20
Mhm.
20 drops. They're gonna lose money, dude. So
Yeah, I mean, you can.
here. This is for the PC people. This is for the collectors right now.
Oh,
So
and I think to speak to like used position, it's this. We can't forget that this is a collector's app. Like this is like, you know what I'm saying? Like we can't look past that and be like, oh, wait a minute, are you a fan of this stuff?
Mhm.
Yes, you're a genuine fan. Okay, well then just do what fans do and spend your money the way fans spend money, and you're going to be happy, right?
I mean, there is some strategies here too, right? Like for example, like these 4 comics, right? Silver Surfer Black, that's a spec book. Like only some people might have made money there. I got 1 copy. I don't usually put because there's no major first appearance or anything key here other than I mean he gets called Surfer Black, right? So it's not really an investment. New Mutants Annual, dude, I used to have 20 copies of this, physical copies, and I could not sell them. I could not make money of them. So I know they're a hard sell in the physical world. Although I love Psylocke, she's one of my favorites, but I tried making money off this book, and it's I know it's not a good seller.
Dude, I've been there. I'm right there with you, dog. I tried flipping that. Nope.
It didn't work. So the
Negative.
Captain America Annual, that's a PC book. I have 1. The Baron Mordo, I did want to. I eyed that physical a few times, but I just backed up because for the price that it was selling, I found some better keys that I thought would have more value or might go up more. Right?
Yeah,
So,
if it's under $10, I have a feeling I'll sack 10 to 15. If it's, I mean, it's a Silver Age key. I mean, it's one of the biggest Silver Age keys for
second
Doctor
appearance of
Strange.
Doctor
So
Strange,
second
too, right?
appearance of him, first appearance Baron Mordo, and the actor that plays Baron Mordo is phenomenal. And we know that he's going to come back, and he's probably going to have a place to play. And especially if he ends up being on the hero side, they kind of take a little sidetrack with him, real pop. So I think if we see that under 7, I'll go to town.
Yeah, he's also in Strange Academy, right? Is he?
No, you're thinking about Brother Voodoo.
Oh, Brother Voodoo, not
Brother Voodoo is in Strange Academy.
Yeah. Now the other drops for the week, the collectibles. I really, 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 really want this Eye of Agamotto.
Yep. No, me too.
Like
Which one?
I want the secret rare. Like I really want a secret rare because I am so optimistic about this thing eventually having a use case. Like I really like the idea of whether it's I mean, the idea of eventually, like we've talked about this in the group chat, the idea of eventually being able to get the Infinity Stones and the Gauntlet, like it's awesome. And then eventually, it's not going to take much. And I started thinking about this, and we could talk about this more later. But okay, so and Nothmar, you might be able to speak more to this from the IT world and the tech world. If these NFTs already exist, right? And I'll use my Elsa as an example. Okay, if Elsa already exists, can I write? If I'm Disney, can I write additional stuff into Elsa? Can I write a smart contract into an already existing NFT, or does that have to be built at the time of its creation?
I mean, anything can be built afterwards, right? It's just, but the thing is, there's legal consequences here right now, right? Because, like, supposedly, if you sell an NFT, you bought it at its like current form, so it's an agreement that's the current form.
Oh,
You're
they've
not
already
supposed to
changed
touch it
some,
because,
right?
they don't own that. We had this discussion like a few times, like, supposedly nobody else can touch your NFT anymore, but since you're in VeVe and they're kind of like, an HOA where they control all their NFT. So if they decide to upgrade the NFT, they'll do it, and they'll just tell people, hey, we we added like one of those I forgot those Pocahontas thing or something that there was additional uh
Movement.
yeah, it was dancing movement or whatever, right? So here apparently I think they are going to do that afterwards, and they're going to say that it's still, it's their right to upgrade their, you know platform NFTs. So but in if there was no legal consequences, yes, you can do anything afterwards, right? You can upgrade or change the look of the NFTs or change the color or whatever, right? You can swap it altogether. But that's, it's kind of like a lot of people will kind of be up in arms though, right? Because if you bought something and this is what you expected, and then suddenly you bought Baron More, you bought the Eye of Agamotto, later they give you the I don't know, the blade of uh, Dormammu instead, right, or whatever, right? So it's like totally different. So you bought the Eye of Agamotto with the time stone. If they swap it with the gemstone or whatever, it's a different thing, right? So
Yeah. So with that's kind of where my head was at. So I do like the idea of, and I think they would legally be able to do this and win. So if we jump and look at the Matt Gondek model, Disney could, a year from now, say, hey, anybody with the secret rares of all of the Infinity Stone objects
yep,
will wake up the next morning with this new thing airdropped into their inventory, whatever it is, right?
yeah, yep,
Iron Man's helmet, right? And from that, and the minute that ends up in your inventory, Disney can say, hey, with this Iron Man helmet, you can get 10% off any Marvel purchase ever.
yeah,
And everybody's kind of starting off at square one. Like no one is getting scammed that way, where they were like, oh, well, had I would have known, I've had the Iron Man helmet the whole time and you never said that. And now this thing has been activated, right? Like,
yeah.
You don't think
No,
they would just build that into the existing golden moments, though, or whatever
well,
it is?
that was my question. I don't know if we've been buying and selling golden moments and then later they add that feature, I don't know if that's fair. I don't know if they can get away with that.
I don't think you really have to add anything, though, right? Because you would say, hey, if your account and your blockchain, if you own one of these items on the blockchain, then your account becomes eligible for these discounts.
Yeah, you're right.
And you would just link your account on the blockchain, and then it would come up. Right?
Yeah.
I think that's how it would work.
Yeah, okay, then never mind.
But I mean, I love the idea that they would airdrop it. I also have a hard time thinking that Disney would do it because they don't like giving out free stuff. That's what I've found. Like the niche. I mean, all the ones we've seen have been like the artists, which have been great. I would love if they would. If they come out with the gemstones and they come out like you get the gauntlet if you buy all 5 stones. How cool would that
be? The only reason why I think that Disney would is just because now in perpetuity they're getting a 6% rip per sale on this thing. Yeah. Like it's free for you, the consumer, to like whatever, get free park passes. But eventually those park passes will become, let's just say the partner statue will eventually become as popular as a Bored Ape. Right. So let's say it sells for $60,000 in 10 years. People are going to want to be able to have that as a bragging right. And they get these bonuses. So Disney will make their money 100 times over.
Yeah, but Disney could also offer it and say, hey, for $300, just like that cow, you can buy this for $300 and also get the discounts, and everyone's still going to buy it.
That's true.
I mean, they can easily tie it too to all their new future promotions, right? Hey, Disney park opening for the summer. Hey, you get 5%. Then next year, you get they're selling new T-shirts. They'll say, okay, you get 25% off these new T-shirts. They can keep adding constantly marketing stuff like constantly, right? So
yeah. But you know what I think though, but Carmen, I do think you make a good point, and I think as we wait and see, right? Because like the Eye of Agamotto is the first of like the artifacts, right? That we haven't seen any. Well, if they drop another 2 to 3 in the next couple months, maybe that idea starts to build more I think I would be more willing to go in on a speculative play for that SR if I see them actually drop some of the other artifacts in a similar fashion. I'm like, okay, there's at least a scheme here. Whereas right now we don't even know if they're dropping some of our artifacts, right? Like after Doctor Strange is over, what's the next couple artifacts? Maybe they do like a Thor hammer for Love and Thunder. I don't know, right? But I want to see them. Maybe like if we see 2 or 3 more drops, maybe that's a conversation I would start having. Like, all right, well maybe.
See, I wonder if they're not making additional utility only because VeVe is only wants to stay in the selling the NFT game, and then if companies like Disney wants to do a promotion, they're just gonna sell their own NFTs and then give that discount there. That might be, I don't know. That sounds like something maybe that's holding VeVe back. Maybe they just want to stay in the sell NFT game, right? Because it's a lot more effort to tie in sales with like et cetera, et cetera.
Well, see, and that's my hope is that Disney comes out with their own thing, and once these are portable off the app and they're in like a cold wallet, you take the golden moments from VeVe private wallet into Disney's app, and then maybe that's how they make it so that you're not constantly flipping them, is that you're locking it into the Disney app, reaping the benefits or renting them, whatever it may be, right? But you're able to lock them into the Disney app so Disney knows that you're not, flipping. It helps the economy, whatever it is. But then it's locked into Disney. So,
well, real quick before we move on to the next segment, while I was in deep speculative thought mowing my lawn,
I was going to say, what were you doing?
This is where these ideas come to me. I realized something else that's really cool, and that I guess happened with the Bored Ape stuff. But like, if you really wanted to cultivate the NFT VeVe space, I mean, you could really not even affiliate yourself or do anything like with NFTs, or like you don't have to get a hold of VeVe to make anything happen now at this point. Like if I'm a comic book store owner, right? And I own, let's say I'm a comic book store owner and I own a Batman season 1 collectible. I could basically say, hey, anybody that owns a Batman season 1 collectible on the VeVe app gets 10% any and all DC comic book purchases at my comic book store. And you could start almost like creating your own sort of smart contracts, like you're like sort of sidestepping. It doesn't benefit the comic book store really, but it benefits the owners of the collectibles. And if I'm a comic book store owner who owns these collectibles, you can kind of perpetuate, you can sort of start to inflate the market, right? Because
I can see that. I think that's a good point. Like, actually, I mean, I was trying to tie in like giving away more NFTs for people who subscribe to our shows and stuff like that. So I was gonna do that. So LCS should also, hey, buy $1,000 worth of NFTs, and then whenever somebody buys their latest, I don't know, Moon Knight collectible, hey, you get 1 free NFT or whatever, right? So just as an added incentive. So
yeah. So ultimately, full circle, I liked the Eye of Agamotto drop because it forces us to have these sorts of conversations, which for nothing else are just fun. And then the last thing was that the painting drop. I have started to, if I'm not head over heels in love with the indie artist and the indie art, I stay away from it regardless of how big the artist is. Hopefully it blows up and hopefully great for the artist and great for the artist fans, but that's just not my lane.
I mean, after also, I mean, I bought a few of the art and I'm holding them long term, and a lot of them have dropped, right? So I have concerns that these two, they're like in the 200, 300 range. They might go down to the 100 range, right? So I wouldn't buy them right now.
And I have a feeling that all it's really going to take, to be honest with you, is another Disney Golden Moment announcement. And in my opinion, this is not financial advice. This is just my opinion. I could see all of those paintings dropping to $100.
Oh yeah, if they release a Vader on the 4th, like everyone thinks, the market's just gonna shambles.
Yeah.
Or they for comics and collectibles, they again start dropping big name stuff, and then there's a lot more excitement again, right? Imagine they drop like for collectibles, like the big ones like Coons or or Banksy or whatever, right? So there's so much excitement. Now everybody's gonna start jumping in the market. I was like, oh shoot, they have so much. Or comic books, what if 1 month they suddenly start dropping AF-15, Hulk 181, GX1 at the same time? Forget it. Everybody's and there's MTL, forget it, right? So
So that is a perfect segue into our next section, comics versus collectibles. We have been having these conversations now, I think, for the last year. I wish Sean was here. We know what Sean would say. Pretty much he's all in on comics. But I
Low mint comics.
low mint.
I'll put that plug in for sure.
Low mint. But I just think in general, we're really starting to see a separation with market behavior. I don't know what to buy or when to buy it at this point when it comes to the newer stuff. I'm comfortable buying another MC1, and I'm not really, if it halves again, I guess I'll be bummed, because in my mind I'm like, I could have bought 2, but I only bought 1. But for the most part, I think if you buy an MC1 right now, your plan should, if you're buying an MC1, your plan should be like, what is this going to look like in 2 years?
Yeah.
It should not be buying an MC1 right now to sell it in a month. You can, you're more than welcome to, but I don't think that's a great strategy. But all the newer books, your guess is as good as mine with how these books are going to move. And the same thing with the collectibles. Actually, I'm sorry. I'll say this before I toss it to you, Ray. I'm more confident in my ability to predict collectible performance based on market price open than I am with comic book performance. So I'll start there. But Ray, what do you think?
All right. So one, I think that we just happen to be, I think 2 things. One, I think we are kind of in a pretty big shift between comics and collectibles, right? Like we had the I wonder if this isn't just a prolonged shift of gems from collectibles to comics, and then we see that shift come back, right? Because obviously comics, the big ones, have held up better than what we would consider the grail pieces for the collectibles, right? The season 1 collectibles have even dropped 75%. A lot of them have. And so I wonder if we're not just in some kind of extended period. But if you're asking me which one do I see better in the near term, I think comics, mostly because they already have their utility. You can read it. You're not just setting it up in a showroom that, mind you, no one else can even really see right now. But you can read them. And then 2, I think once MTL comes and we start to see the wave of other people like us that buy comics on the outside, I think that's when we actually start to see a pretty big. I think that's the next big comic run, is when we start to see some more mainstream adoption, right? All the big YouTubers that are, Comic Tom getting pumped up about top 10. It's always like the top 10 hottest selling books of the week. How easy would that be to be in VeVe and be like, hey, look at the top 10 books that have sold in VeVe. Prices sky high, whatever it may be, right? It's perfectly primed to be the next comic market. You just need, as Nothmar said, you got to have the MTL confidence for a lot of these big name comic books who are probably more traditional folks to jump in and be like, all right, I feel comfortable that my money can go both ways because it's a fast market. They don't want their money to be shelled up for 50%, right? So I don't know. I think short-term comics, long-term, I love Grail collectibles. And I think that if Disney did any kind of big promotions, it's going to be with those season 1 collectibles, right? Like, you're putting it on the Disney Golden Moments. You're not going to put it on the Inhumans that Carmen bought 30 of for, under $5, right? But like realistically, I think if you want to speculate on, hey, what do you think is going to start to bring in some of that like adoption from the big companies? I think it's probably going to be collectibles. And so I think that long term, I want a solid stash of season 1 collectibles. I think they see a lot of ROI as they start to see their utility adopted, because right now they have none. So that's where I'm at.
Nice. Nothmar, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. I think right now, since we're comic collectors and we know comics, so we know which ones to keep, and which ones will hold value. Comics are strong, and I think they will maintain strength long term. Collectibles are down right now, but I think I was just thinking if they increase the utility and they get better graphic artists, that might help collectibles go up again. Because right now, the quality is really bad, right? So imagine if they hire, oh man, forget it. They hire, Frank
No
Miller.
more Invisible Womans, damn
No
it!
more
I
Visible
need
Woman.
I need
Dude.
Next and
Man.
Electra to be so much
Oh
better.
man,
It's so
those are
easy.
terrible, terrible.
Yeah, I
So if
know.
they get like real artists like Frank Miller, Jim Lee, or Todd McFarlane to do like original stuff too, not just
Mhm.
copies of collectibles. So if they get big names or really good artists, I think collectibles has upside, and also because I mean there's still a lot of flippers on the site, right? Because as soon as we do a drop, there's like 100, 300, 400 like NFTs on sale. So there's too many flippers. But majority, there's a good chunk of people who are not comic book collectors because I'm in a few groups that I do notice they're not familiar. They keep asking me about comics, so but collectibles they all don't need to ask, right? They're like, oh, I'm going for Pumbaa or I'm going for Winnie the Pooh,
Yeah.
so people, it's more mainstream. So I think because of their mainstream recognition, maybe collectibles has a shot, but they need to improve the quality and the utility for them.
Yeah, yeah. I'm there with you on with that. I think like I said earlier, like I'm much more confident in my ability to predict where a lot of these collectibles are going to land. Like when the villains collectibles were announced, and I saw it was a $20 price point, I was like, "There's most of the like Ursula's going to settle it in the teens. Like she's just going to because of other ceilings and sort of how they work." But comics are kind of a different animal, because just because Ghost Rider is at 35, that doesn't mean that
25 now.
yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like that doesn't mean the next book can't also run to 35 because it's just a different character completely, right? But we do know, actually, to be honest with you, I thought that even though there were less mintings, I thought that Captain America Wolverine would settle lower. What's it at right now? Like
It's
13?
actually pretty high. It's like
Oh, is it 17 last I saw it
17.
today?
Yep, it's
Yeah.
respectable. 16.50.
Yeah, so I thought that was gonna be at around $10. So I was wrong there. I thought New Mutants Annual 2 would have been a $10 book. I was wrong there. But I was happily wrong, right? Because then I could grab a couple of them. So the comics thing, I think right now are better. Like if you're going to invest in something right now, I think it makes a little more sense to invest in comic books. But as far as predictability, I don't feel as confident. You know what I
Well,
mean?
it's for comics because like we know the big grails, right? So the big grails like Ghost Rider, I stacked that, right? So even though it went up to 50, it's down to 25. I'm holding it. I think it will definitely go up to 50 again down the road. Some of these that I missed, I'm okay with. Like if I miss them, like the which ones like popped, like even Captain America Annual, I'm okay missing that because I really just want one. I'm not gonna stack that unless it's like $3 or $5. It's not. It's a great PC book, but it's not like a key, right? So,
Yeah.
so even if I miss that, I'm okay with it. Because I know probably this is gonna drop, right? I think that's gonna drop to under 10. Maybe not now, but maybe like a month or three from now. So we missed just the spec pump, but that's because of a lot of flippers are in here and they're trying to flip whatever they can, right? So and they're trying to hold, right? If there's some people buying it, they'll hold it. So so I mean I try to stick with my strategy is just mostly grails or deals, right? If the comic is like under $8 and it's a great comic, like even Captain America Annual, if that's under $6, I'll probably get 20 of that. But right now at this price, I'll probably try to get one when it hits to $10, right? So that's kind of my goal.
Yeah.
The other thing that's, like we're getting 4 comics a week, 3 comics a week. I mean, it's like that's 150 a year or something like that, roughly. I don't know what the math is, but like there just isn't enough demand, I feel like, for comics to really. I mean, we've seen them start hitting $2. Pretty soon, I think we're going to see the dollar comics, right? Like, it's just it's coming, and I just don't think it can sustain it. And that's why. Oh goodness! I hate the VeVe Collectibles group because they're just like when they brought up those 5 Captain Americas that no one actually has ever read in real life. And everyone's like, "You should not be selling it. You should be selling it for double what you got." I was like,
dude, I was giggling because I know the bots are gonna get killed with that.
But it's also killing all the people that are listening to just terrible advice in these Facebook groups.
Yeah, there's so much bad advice there.
We might also find out, and I don't know if VeVe will be in a tough spot here. I think we're getting very, very close to, maybe not because of the chance to get an SR, but I feel like we're getting close to the
comics not selling out.
Comics not selling out. But I'm going to bite my tongue there because I think just the sheer nature of human beings, they're going to roll the dice to try and get the SR. You know,
you're talking $6.99 versus $70. That's a tough cookie.
Yeah, I wonder if they will start either cutting down the supply or lowering the price, right? I don't know if they'll lower the price, but at least cutting down supply from like what was that 32K? You know, cut it down to like 25 or 20K or something, right?
So then the problem is if we start to see the demand go back up, then we're just screwing ourselves out of, because sometimes I would like the book.
And I think, I guess in some aspects talking about ceilings with a lot of these new comics, like I was going to buy, I forget what I was going to buy, but then I saw that I could get a Tales of Suspense 52 for $15 at Floor at a mint that I thought was good. And I was like, it was just at 30. I mean, I'll just buy that and see what happens in a month for 15. I don't know what it's at right now, but that's kind of like where I'm at. I think Nothmar, to your point, is like, if it's a deal, maybe I'll do it. Or if it's a grail. For me, I think collectibles at this point, the only things I'm really interested in are season 1 stuff that I'm just sort of trying to move stuff around to get to if I want it. Or deals at the comic book level that are like, anywhere from $3 to $8 that I feel like makes sense. Now, speaking of money, how do we spend 1,000 gems? Because I feel like this conversation is now different than it was even, a while ago.
But some might say it's the same as it was back in November, right before I know. But it is.
Do you buy, because we talk about this all the time. Are we looking, and I feel like Nothmar is notorious for this too. Am I buying something that is going to 6x, right? Like, am I buying something that I know is going to go 6, 7, 8, 10x in the, or am I buying something that's going to 2x? And I think that is now a more important reality for how to spend $1,000 than it was in November. Because we now have a better sense of what may or may not 10x, right? So Nothmar, how would you spend 1,000 gems?
I mean, I would definitely wait for drops. I would wait for future drops, and any key that comes out, I will try to buy them under $10 and then load up. Same thing. X-Men 1 comes out off the gate, I'm gonna buy whatever, 1,000 worth. Or if I know Hulk 181, I'll spread them out, right? I'll buy all of those when it comes out and it's still in the $10 range. But if it shoots up to 50, 80, I'm not gonna buy that much. I'll buy maybe like 5 copies or something like that, maybe. But I'm gonna wait for the deals because there's so many deals like this NYX. I still think it's a deal. Those are the ones that I would chase. I would chase the
Inhumans.
Inhumans. Sure, I'll chase Inhumans. I did get a couple, but not a lot. I'm not a super big fan, but I think she does have potential. They will keep using her. So Sabretooth, those are still fairly cheap. Oh, the X-Men 129 is again near the $10 range. Those I stack with no restraint. So I mean, surprisingly, I haven't bought Werewolf by Night, but then again, when it came out, it's the time I was like really
raise face. What?
I was really anti.
This is blasphemy.
But it was expensive too. It's like it wasn't like $10. It was right away $15-20 off the gate, right? So it went up to 30. So it's not for me. I need to get the deals, you know. So because when the market tanks, it's not as bad because I got most of mine at deals. The ones that I try to chase are the ones that's gonna probably hurt me right now, right? So
So, real quick, just a quick question, Nothmar. Are you out of buying like? Because they're 300, they're 200. Are you not looking at a Wonder Woman or an ASM a Spider-Man collectible, and you're looking more at comics as the deals for how to spend your 1,000 gems?
yeah, I mean, if I were to buy, I would buy maybe one or two Wonder Woman because they're what, $200, right? So maybe
Yeah.
something like that. One or two because they're cheap. Maybe one or two Spider-Man, and the rest comics because I love stacking. I'd love getting like 50, 100 copies of something, and if it's like 3X's or 5X's, and, you know, in the long term, you know, we want to have like an online comic book store. It's coming, I'm telling you. So, dude, imagine having like 100 copies of like X-Men 1 or first first Moon Knight. You know, when you open your online comic book store, right? So.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair point. Ray, what about you?
Yeah, so God, Nothmar made a lot of good points, and now I'm over here rethinking my entire strategy in my head.
That's
I'm not
why
gonna
we did
lie.
it.
I'm like,
That's why this show is awesome.
So my initial thought was, and this, I'm looking. I've got an idea of investing maybe a little bit more money this coming month. One, I like to keep at least 50 on the side for drops at all times. I think you got to go for the big ones, right? I haven't gone for any yet, but one's going to come soon. $1,000. I think that you could, and it depends. I think C3PO is great. I know past performance does not guarantee future results, but we know that the big golden moments will have their time if the market rebounds, right? And so, like, you talk about what's going to 3X. Well, I can tell you pretty confidently that if we get back to a market sentiment of what we had in January, there's no way C3PO doesn't go back close to 3K, right? And that's an easy triple up. I think the other thing you could do is take $1,000 and do 0.5 gems and then get yourself an R2.
Yep, that's another play. You can double your money.
And that's all of my gem plays are off of double money, I think. But if I had to say like, hey, I had 1,000 I need to put in, and I can't wait for the future, and I just want something to sit in my account. One, I'm looking for doubles of what I already have to make it easier to sell in the next pump. So Spider-Man Common, I'm looking at you. Well, if you hit 250 again, I'm probably coming. I like C3 under 1,000 if it hits it. And then I think Batman Season 1 is probably primed. If I could set myself up to get another Todd, I'll set myself up to get another Todd. But I will sell a lot to get another Todd.
Todd broke my heart, dude.
I know. I don't want to say that. I won't say the T word any longer. That's kind of where I'm at. And
before we continue, we have some feedback from the from viewers. Tucson Collectibles say, "No way, comics are great. They have 80 years worth to draw from." And then he says, "You should be holding these comics."
Yeah, no, I mean, you definitely hold. Yeah, Hulk 181 at that junkyard. Hulk 1. Oh my goodness. But I do think that like pretty soon the market's going to get saturated with a lot of comic books, and I think about, hey, what's going to 6X, right? Yeah, I mean, the Werewolf by Night, Toxin, I'm right there with you, man. You're talking my language over here. I can dig that play. But like, I'm looking at like, if the comic book community comes in, what do they want? And it's probably going to be the Silver Age keys, the Golden Age keys that they know to be big, and we know to be big. The big three, Fantastic Four, ASM 101, although I'm not, once AF15 comes, it's a totally different conversation. Marvel 1, like those just don't have a ceiling to me, right? Like I know maybe it can't get over 1,000, but Marvel 1, I just don't know. If comic book collectors come in, I don't know that book has a realistic ceiling, right? Like people will pay a lot if they can actually get their hands on the Marvel 1, right? Like that's the one book that's untouchable for anyone else. So, But I'm with you, Tuxin. Like you definitely hold all the comics, but I'm also not spending money on the drops to get a lot of these comics that aren't grails. I mean, what do you guys think?
Yeah, so we got another comment. It says, "I'm out here making moves, selling CGCs and getting first 10x mintings.
That would be
stars and low mints, baby." I like it.
Is that Sean?
Yeah, you know it is.
So stack some gems for May drop. So I like those strat. It's weird. So I think both of you guys touched on things that I really like. The first one is, it's funny. I watched a random Steve Aoki interview, and he talked about how he never buys one of anything because he knows the type of collector that he is.
Yeah.
And Ray, I think that one of my strategies right now is I'm kind of going back and making sure I have doubles of things that I'm going to want to let go. So I have I have 2 UR DeLoreans. I have 2 Wonder Womans. I have 2 ASM collectibles. And those are kind of, I think, as far as my collectible double ups, I think that's where I'm at. I did have 2 Woodies. I might grab another Woody. So those are, again, the double ups where I even when the DeLorean was at 1,700, I wanted to sell it, but I love it. So I was like, I was stuck there. Had I had 2, I definitely would have sold one. So there's that. And now that I'm close to doing that, I think I'm now transitioning to that other place that Nothmar is at, where I want to have a budget for books and new drops, right? Right. So we got some bronze and earlier pre-copper. I just think saving up, right, for these books. So I guess my brother and I are going to look at a comic book collection this weekend. To maybe potentially make a purchase. And when you're vetting these collections, you get, and you're talking to the people that own these collections, they'll say things like, oh, I collected, I was a collector during the 70s and 80s. And immediately your brain starts calculating, okay, what books were published in the 70s and 80s? Sometimes you'll ask a question like, oh, what is the price on the comics? Is it a 12-cent book? Is it a 15-cent book? Is it a 20-cent book? Because again, your brain is trying to figure out what books exist. So when we're thinking about new drops, I think our brains are like, okay, what books might be coming out that are worth buying? What books are going to be these potential dollar books, right? The Fantastic Four wedding one, right? That's probably going to be a dollar book. Are we going to get another Werewolf by Night 32 in the near future? Because to Nothmar's point, if we do, and the bots drop the ball, and they are $3.99, you want to make sure that you're ready to buy 100 of them, right? Because you don't want to buy, an Elsa, even though I think everybody should. You don't want to buy whatever it is. You don't want to buy your Grail for your PC, and then literally later that week, Hulk 181 drops, and because of whatever, it's a $10 book, and you're like, oh no, I wanted 50 of these, and now I can only buy 3.
All right, Carmen, Nothmar, if Hulk 181 drops and it's $7, how many are you picking up?
Dude, oh man, at least. I mean, normally, if I was back to my normal state, I would definitely get 100 or 150 copies, dude. Right now, maybe I'll be happy if I get 30 to 50. If I get my mindset back, I'll definitely 30 to 50. But back in the day, I would have definitely got 100, 150.
What's the price point, Ray? What'd you say?
$7.
$7.
100.
Dude, I love how we're in 2 different places. You're 100. I'm like, at least 10. I could drop $70,
I could forego 3 Chipotle bowls. I'm gonna take myself at least 5.
Dude, I will say this, Ray. That's like the 3rd time you've used Chipotle as your how many Chipotle bowls to comic book ratio?
The past 2 homes I've bought, I've specifically told the realtor it has to be within a certain radius of the Chipotle. So that is how I just bet my life. That is the life of a single man with very few other concerns. Don't care about schools, don't care about rooms. I care about Chipotles.
Yes, that's fair, man. I get that. I get that. All right, so we've actually let's jump to we'll do selling strategies and then other platforms, and then we may come back to gem plays. So Nothmar, you've been pretty active in trying to sell.
Yeah.
Do you have any strategies? What are you trying to do? How's it working out?
Well, typically when I sell, I don't want to sell at a loss, right? Like a lot of you see a lot of people just selling the bottom and they're just trying to get out. They'll take a loss just to get out. Like for me, most of the stuff I buy, I mean, I was originally intending to hold long term, so I'm not gonna sell them at a loss, right? But like I'll sell them probably, a little bit over floor, which is probably, depending on where it is, at least 1 or 2 pages away from the floor if you scroll down, right? So at least if there's something I want to get rid of, maybe 1 page from floor. If it's something I want to hold, I'll do 2 pages from floor. So lately it hasn't been nothing's been selling because the market's tanking. But like for me, it's still most of my investments are good investments. Like I have, like you said, I have Wonder Woman. I have like 8 copies of Wonder Woman. I have like 20 copies of like even the Back to the Future cars, right? The NYXs. I have like I mean, I'm not gonna sell them at a loss. I can still hold them. I'm not, I'm not hard up, so I can still keep them and try to wait it out and see the market recovers. So for my goal is to wait till the market starts improving, wait till MTL, and then debate again if I want to sell some. The ones that I have multiple copies of, or the ones that I think are higher than market than what they should be in the market. Yeah, still like I still have Supermans, I still have the one C3PO. so I'm debating on selling them, but like it's too low right now that like I'm debating just holding them too, right? So I kind of gauge depending on which ones, like the Mighties. I I'll even the Mighties I don't want to sell right now because they're so low. I think that, they can go up again a little bit, maybe go up to double maybe in a few months, so I don't know if I would, I'll sell 1 or 2, but I'm not gonna dump them, right? I'm not gonna just throw away my investments, so.
Yeah, that makes sense. Right. What about you?
Yeah, I haven't sold, I don't think, really anything in the past like 2 or 3 months. I don't like selling at a loss. I mean, we all got in a little
Yep.
bit earlier, so nothing I sell right now would really be at a loss. But I don't want to sell in the down market. Again, like you, Nothmar, I didn't buy for the short term. I knew this would happen. We talked about this happening for weeks. We said this dip was coming, right? We just got to make it to the other side. If you believe in the project, which we still have some. I mean, hey, the web platform came out. We might talk about that later. But nonetheless, my thoughts are sell with a purpose, right? Don't sell
Yeah.
to just keep like the gems I keep for drops are ones that I put on the platform for my own to have, right? That's my gems. I'm not selling to get that. If I sell something now, it's going to be for a purpose. And I talked about Todd Batman. I think if he hits, let's say he hits 2.5, right? That's like 80% of a drop from where he was, right? So I think feasibly he could 5x, whereas Marvel Comics is only halved. So I could sell my Marvel Comics that are 50% loss to pick up Todd that is an 80% from its high. And I think they both go back to their peaks. Well, now I'm selling with a purpose because I'm just redistributing into a grail. So I could see that happening. I could see Nyx every time Nyx goes up to like 15, I usually sell 10. And then I buy back 10 whenever it comes back down. It's been pretty like clockwork every 2 weeks. I'm making a little bit there. That's how I've made some. But again, like I'm not selling to just sit there with gems. I'm not selling to buy things that I think are super fun. I'm only going to sell for a purpose, and that's right now a Todd or a R2 if he hits my threshold.
Yeah, I mean, for me too, if I would sell right now, if I would really want to sell, it's because I want to buy, like, I know some of the grails might come and I need cash for it, right? So that's my purpose. I want to have like, 500 gems so that when Hulk weighted 181 or if 15 comes out, I can buy like, whatever, 50, 100 copies, right? So that's my purpose.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. I'm not really trying to sell to make. Almost always, I'm trying to flip one for one, and it's really where I list is going to depend on what that other thing that I want is doing. If I check it noon and I want to buy something that's $20 and I have things to sell, but the floor isn't where I want it, I might hold off. And then when I check that thing again, if it drops to 18, then I'm like, oh, okay, I will be taking maybe a little bit of a loss on this, but it's 1-to-1 because the other thing that I want to buy has also dropped, so the scale kind of works. But for the most part, I think I really haven't been selling all that much unless I'm trying to buy something else that is the lowest it's ever been. And that's the other thing I'm trying to pay attention to too, is like how low is that floor of the thing that I'm buying? Because I'm definitely not gonna sell something at a loss to buy something else that's on a pump. Which you can tell people are doing still, maybe a little bit. Like I saw, and I think Sean shared it in the group chat, like a screenshot of someone sold an MC1 for like $175. And that was like, it went from the floor was like 210, and then there was like 2 for 195. Then someone sold 1 for 175. Then the 195, the 195 sold. Now the floor's back to like 209 or something like that. And you're like, I don't really understand. I get it. I think it's a desperation sell, but I don't really, I don't think that's a great move.
No, I mean, I would consider doing something like that because right now I don't have gems, right? If Hulk 181 comes out, I have like 11 of that MC1s, right? I'll sell one for like 200 or 175, get quick cash, and then pump it and buy like a lot of 181s or whatever. So something like that I might consider.
Yeah,
But
the problem with that though is then you end up selling it for about 25% of what it is now, because you're gonna have to keep dropping your price to hope someone's picking them up
yep.
at the floor.
Yeah, and then remember, you lose an additional 10% roughly.
No.
You know what I mean?
But then again, because like I bought all of those at like whatever $6.99 or $10, right? So I'm in the green. I got them cheap. So that's the benefit of stacking, some grails down the road that they can go up. So
right now, so let's do some. We've got almost 10 minutes left. Let's do some talk on other platforms. Again, I'm not on anything. I know we've talked about this cowl purchase a lot. I think I'm 100% out on it. Ray, I know it seems like you've been really researching it. So what do you got?
Yeah, so I've got one cow, and I've listened to. So they've done AMAs all week long. Jim Lee is like partner with the program. They've had DC Comics on to talk. A couple things that I think. So right now, do I think one's a decent investment? Answer is I don't know. I am prepared fully to sell this thing for half of what it is, right? But I do think so. But DC Comics, so they talked about it, right? A couple things it's going to do. Number one, the Fandom NFTs. They're going to have the ability to burn those discs that they gave us during Fandom for real NFTs, right? Now we don't know what that is, and everyone's asked, "Hey, is DC Comics going to do what Marvel Comics is doing on VeVe?" And they're like, we're not going to give the answer to that right now, right? They never say no. They never say yes. They're just like, well, we're good. I think today, actually, they said we're going to give it where we think our readers want to be able to have access to it, right? It doesn't mean anything. I don't know, right? But it's interesting because the Fandom NFTs are all from famous DC covers, right? Green Lantern 87 is one of them. So my hope is that you burn the NFTs in the Fandom to be comics. What other NFT do they have out there, right? HRO's got the cards. VeVe has the statues. DC Comics is their partner. What the hell else could you possibly burn this thing into, right? Like, I don't know. But nonetheless, so that's one play. I do think it's interesting. I think the cow's going to give you VIP for free access to the other fandoms and DC events. So that right there is some money at least built in if you enjoy going to their events, right? So there's that. I do think it's interesting that they're doing two other things I think VeVe could take or leave, but I think it's pretty neat. One is if you're a cow owner, all the cow owners built into a future Batman comic book running series with Jim Lee. And so you're voting on how that plays out. And then they have 9 districts. So if you buy a cow, you're assigned to one of 9 Gotham districts. And each week or whatever, you can do challenges to make your district higher. And then somehow I think that loops back into the comic book series. So a lot of like just interesting interoperability. There's a big roadmap. The secondary market opens up in May. And I think that's going to be it. So Fandom NFTs start burning in May. markets in May. So I think that's the time that we'll see, hey, are the bat cows worth something? Now, last thing I'll say, and this is interesting, they only minted like 6,000 out of 200, right? And they're burning the rest of them. So the rest of them are gone. So from here on, there's only going to be 6,000 cows. So if they're not worth anything, then shit sucks, right? You can just keep enjoying the collector experience, which is great. But if they do become something that's valued because they give you access to comic NFTs, these things are going to go nuts, right? I mean, you're talking 6,000 early access tickets to whatever DC Comics puts out there on a comic platform.
Now, did you get a ratio? Is there did you get a common, uncommon? Is there anything like that?
Don't know yet. We find out May 3rd. So all the cows are locked up. They keep a chest, and everyone opens up their cows on the 3rd, and then you can see what it is. So they're not doing common, uncommon. They're all going to have their own traits, and they're going to have special powers kind of associated with them that you can then use in your Gotham quests for your neighborhood, right? Well, they don't have to be super strength, invisibility, colors, and all that. We don't know yet what it's going to look like rarity wise to distinguish.
Now, can you still buy a cowl, or is it done?
It's not done yet. I think there's 8 more hours left on the public sale, and then it's done.
Okay.
So the second, sometime tomorrow it ends. But from what I saw, last I checked, it was 6.5K sold to 1,500 unique users. So 1,500 people own them. And again, my only hope, and again, I think the collectible experience is cool, right? I will participate and get the free comic book and, maybe do the fandom stuff because I went last year and it's pretty cool, right? Virtual access to their accounts, and you will get special NFTs only as a cow holder. We just don't know what that is, right? So pure speculation, but you're talking now only 1,600 people owning all of them. So if it becomes good, then
it bothers me a little bit that they aren't I don't like the it's a surprise type thing.
Yeah. Nope.
For $300.
Yeah.
If you were confident in your product, you would be very explicit about all of the things that you could get. You wouldn't be I don't know.
I'm with you. But you know what? I took HRO money and put it into here, so all of it's still NFT house money. I'm okay risking it for the biscuit because I do think Palm could be a very cool. And what I like is they partner a lot with VeVe, right? They actually they talk about them as if they're partners. I don't know what the full background there is. No idea. But nonetheless, if Palm brings in DC Comics, I think it could have because HRO has blown up, right? That was an easy 3X and then back out, right? But if Palm, DC seems to be getting things right. Their statues are great on VeVe. HRO mixing digital and hybrid collectibles cards, very cool concept. I have to guess that, and they've said it constantly on the AMAs, that their team knows and has done a lot of studying of all the NFT markets. They love what VeVe's done, and they want to make sure that they're giving DC folks NFTs in a lot of different ways. So they know some people want their collectibles, some want their cards, and that some people are going to want them in the way that Palm's going to offer them, and then they don't say anything else. So I don't know, right? It's DC. They mess up a lot. They mess up their movies all the fucking time, and it's so disappointing. But you know what? Jim Lee was stoked for it. The AMAs sounded good. I like the collector experience, if nothing else. So for 300, I'm prepared to lose it all. But there's some cool stuff, right? If it turns out to be big, the cows are going to be money makers because there's just so few of them.
Nice. So we've got a minute left before we are out of here. So we'll just jump right in to some final thoughts. Nothmar, we'll start with you. Thoughts on the market, thoughts on anything.
Yeah, for the markets, just be careful. Markets are dropping. I think there's deals to be had. I wouldn't go crazy and spend big money, I would say, unless you really believe in the NFT. If you really believe Wonder Woman would go back to, I don't know, at least 500 or 800 or 1500, then now's the time. Buy a few, but don't go crazy because it might still continue going down. It's like the stock market, right? It's tanking right now. You don't know where the bottom is. I mean, if you have cash, buy a few, but put all your money yet. See how far it will go, and then buy in. Like look for deals and look for ones that you think will have value, that have utility, that are first appearances or grails. Those are the ones I would focus on. You can buy the others if you want to collect them, but if you're buying them to flip, be careful because you can get burned, in my opinion.
Nice. All right, Ray, what about you?
I'll be real quick. I just talked a lot, but look, everyone's the smartest investor in a bull market, and in the bear market, that's where real smart investors come out to play. I'm gonna tell everyone: stop listening to the VeVe group. Do your own research on drops, like Nothmar said. Just be smart about what you're buying. Right? There's a lot of good deals to be had. Make sure you understand what you're buying. Make sure you're selling with a purpose and you're sticking to your plan.
Yeah, I think that's solid advice to leave with. The only other thing that I'll say is, and I feel like I've said this a whole bunch of times before, be a student and be a fan. Like, be a fan first with some of this stuff. If, like you said about the bat cowl, you're really not going to lose because you're a fan first of this stuff. And you're like, I'm buying this for me as a fan and the things that I think I will get as a fan. One of the reasons why I have not really pulled the trigger on the bat cowl is I'm just not as much of a DC fan, right? So from a fan perspective, that purchase just does not make sense for me. It makes more sense for me as a fan to spend $60 on a Harry Potter wand, which I will continue to reference just to address the fact that, like, some of this stuff as a collector, you just buy because you love. So paying attention to that is almost always better. I think staying away from the VeVe collectible group where everyone's the smartest person in the room, and that it gets really toxic. I'm not going to say anything bad about the people running the group. It's just that be thoughtful with what you're reading and why you're reading it, because sometimes I see a lot of people say a lot of things and it makes it very obvious that they're not fans of anything. And because of that, it makes it a little questionable.
Yep, they're just pumping. There's a lot of pumpers, dude. Like, I noticed there's so many pumpers. They just talk about prices going up or your crypto is going up, but then you don't explain why they're going up. You're just pumping, right? So if you tie it to some reason like utility or etc., then you have a better shot, I think. I would say. But if you're just saying pump it, it's going up, buy 1,000 copies of the next drop, I don't know what to say, dude. Like, do your research. You'll get whatever you get out of it if you do your research.
Yep, I bought that Viveros Uprising black and white art, and I bought that the Viveros Justice black and white art, and that Cozy and Dan Uprising wave art, just because I love it, just because I'm a fan. So much so that I'm thinking about getting prints for my office, but that's just because I like it, not because I think it's going to 10x, right? If it does, great, but more so for me,
Yeah.
So with all that being said, gentlemen, it is always a pleasure. Everybody at home, thank you so much for hanging out in the dojo. My name is Carmen. This is Nothmar and Ray. Have a good night, guys. We'll see you all next week.
Good night.
Good night.